Welcome. We'll get started in just a moment. Welcome. Nice to see all the smiling faces. Kind of a dreary day where I am right now, so really nice to see you. Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. We have a lot to cover together today, so we're going to get started with some introductions in the chat. Please go ahead and share the following. I'll put the prompt in the chat. How did you learn about today? Where are you joining from? What brings you here? All right, 3 questions. So please go ahead and share in the chat, and we will dive into the content in just a moment. So this is going to be an interactive event. So this part is to help you get warmed up with those intros in the chat. I will not be identifying anybody for privacy purposes. So I'll just share things that you're saying, but I won't say who said what. If later you'd like to come off mute and share a question or a situation, we will reserve some time for that. But for now, when I'm reading things from the chat, I won't identify folks for privacy reasons. So we have folks who are joining who learned about this event from the Future Old Girls Club email list, which is an amazing listserv based in Boston, has a bunch of planners and transportation advocates and designers and entrepreneurs, government employees and so forth, nonprofit leaders. Great. So wonderful to have you here today. And we see that, what are some of the reasons that folks are here from places like Boston and Cambridge and Portland, Oregon, Toronto, a great city I visited recently, had a wonderful time. Portland, Oregon, where I previously lived and recently visited and had a great time, and we'll be there again very soon, actually. And folks from Southern California and all around. Why are folks joining today? Well, it's for reasons like, let's see. I feel I have a sense of where I want my next steps to be, but looking to solidify and develop more confidence in this really difficult job search process. Yeah, absolutely. I bet some folks can relate to that. We have folks joining who are seeking their next career move and not totally sure what they want that to look like. Well, you've come to the right place. Congratulations. It's wonderful to have you here. Folks who are sharing that they learned about the event through LinkedIn. Yes, we are on LinkedIn a lot. So that is great. And you recently left your job and you're looking to pivot from one nonprofit space to another. Yes, I work with a lot of people in the nonprofit space. And of course, right now is very stressful and concerning to many people, given what's happening on the federal level with funding. So I want to, recognize that because it is the relevant context in which we live right now, and there are certain realities that we need to deal with. We need to find ways to cope, ways to adapt, in some cases, maybe ways to resist. But rest is also a form of resistance. And so like taking care of ourselves, I just concluded an event with the Boston Business Women group with over 100 women from not just Boston, but many from the Boston area. And self-care was one of the top topics there. So big proponent of that. We have folks who are here who want some clarity with their career direction. So again, wonderful to have you here. You've come to the right place. And then some of you learned about this event through social impact. I post from time to time on some Slack channels, so you might have heard about it there. Currently looking for work and at a crossroads since you've had a few applications open with US aid, and so now needing to pivot. Yes, I know many people who are being impacted by that, who work in international development and so forth. So definitely, my thoughts are with folks who are struggling through that right now. But the good news is that, we're going to cover some content together that's going to be helpful to you. Some of you are joining from the South Shore of Massachusetts, joining to figure out what you want to do next. And others did a Google search for career clarity. Yeah, one of my favorite topics, and found this event. So joining from Toronto, great city, trying to make a career switch and starting to lose hope and perspective. Oh no, don't lose hope. I'm here to tell you that hope is here. I'll mention it later, but I published a book that's called Clarifying What Matters, Creating Direction for Your Career. And it's a great resource when you're feeling that way. I enjoy having conversations with people about how it's helping them, spark some inspiration and positive action in their lives. So definitely, if you need a little boost, it's a quick read with guiding questions at the end of each quick chapter, and I hope that's helpful to you. Okay, so if you're just joining, we have a bunch of folks who just joined. I'm going to go ahead and repeat what the questions are so you can pop those into the chat. Go ahead and share those in the chat when you have a moment. How did you learn about today? Where are you joining from, and what brings you here? Part of why I read the responses aloud is because I think it's important to recognize who's in the room, right? We have people from Massachusetts, which is my home state. We have people from Oregon, where I previously lived. We have people from cities like Toronto, which I've visited and had a great time, and have some colleagues there, actually, who I do some work with. We have folks from Southern California. Was at a conference there a few months ago for the National Career Development Association. And, so we have folks from all over the country, right? And that's really beautiful. And, this is a time when our country is rather divided. So I really love being able to bring people together from near and far and create community, right? That's part of what the point of this event is. Okay, so that's why I read these statements, because you are sharing, yourselves, you are sharing your time, which your time and your energy, one could argue, are your most valuable resources. Sometimes we forget that, right? We have folks from Mexico City, one of my other favorite cities, and I'll be there in a couple weeks, participating in the Lego Serious Play Facilitation Certification Training, which I'm really excited about. So maybe we can meet up. So please get in touch. I'll be doing some dancing whenever I'm not in the training. So career pivot, it's taking too long. Okay, I just want to say that career pivots can take many months, even when you're doing the right things. So hang in there, okay? It's not an overnight process. It does usually take months. And, you want to be intentional about it, right? You don't want to just take necessarily the first thing that comes along. You probably are somebody who's intentional and you want it to be a good match. And so that does take time, right? It makes sense that it would take time. That being said, you want to make sure you're using the best practices consistently, right? That's the key word, consistently, so that you can move things along, right? Because, we need to earn some money, okay? We want to do work that's meaningful to us, and that's a really important part of our lives. Okay, I love all the introductions that are coming through in the chat, so keep reading those, and I'm going to dig into the content. We have a lot to cover today, and don't forget to come back tomorrow, because that's part 2, and that's where we're going to finish everything up. Okay, get a piece of paper. You're going to need it, or something to take some notes with, journal, what have you. This is going to be very interactive, so get ready, and also be typing things in the chat, because that's where everybody else will be able to see the awesome things you're coming up with. All right, my name's Erica Mattison, and I have a practice called Erica Mattison Coaching and Consulting, and I'm really excited to have you all here today. So let's dig in. Career Clarity Masterclass, 5 keys to clarifying your career direction. And I will say, I do see some familiar faces in the group, and it's really lovely to see you. So some blasts from the past over here, and I'm like being blown away by who's in the room right now. And also a lot of folks I don't know yet, and I'm really excited to get to know you. So welcome to everybody. Okay, so here we go. You're seeing my slides, yes? Just making sure, because it would be hilarious. I'm saying all this stuff and nobody's seeing my slides. Yes, okay, good. Milestones to clarifying your direction. So the way that I think about it, we have 4 milestones here, okay? We have building the foundation, that's milestone 1. Then we move into milestone 2. This is the who am I? Milestone 3 is about what am I looking for? Milestone 4 is what are my options? So it's important to think about your career, your job search, your career pivot as having these stages, okay? This is not something most of us learn in school. Really, if you want to learn this, usually it's because you go become a career coach and you train in it, like as I have. So if you don't know this stuff, that's totally normal and understandable because you've probably never been taught it. And if you haven't sought out the information, it's just really natural that you wouldn't know this stuff. Okay. So it's really understandable. So what are we going to focus on now? We're going to talk about number 1. Okay. If you want more, you can work with me. You can join one of my courses, one of my programs, and so forth. You can read my book, lots of options. Obviously, there's only so much we can cover in a quick masterclass. So we're going to focus on the most important first part, which is the foundation. What does this look like? Okay, this is what is your question? And I'm going to go into each of these in detail throughout the masterclass. So this is just the preview. Your question, then your vision, then your resources, your obstacles, and your reset. Okay, so that's the big overview. That's the big picture of what we're going to be talking about together. The goals are to help you build the foundation by identifying these 5 keys: your question, your vision, your resources, your obstacles, your reset. So get a piece of paper or something to take notes if you don't already have one, and keep an eye out for when there's a question in orange, you're going to get ready to respond in the chat. Okay, so you're going to want to set up your notes like this. Part 1 is today. That is going to be focused on your question and your vision. So write down my question, leave some space, and then write my vision and leave some space. Part 2 is tomorrow, so make sure you come back for that. And I am recording these, and I will share the videos with you. So if you have to step away or leave early, or you can't come to the event tomorrow, you will be able to watch the replay. Of course, being here live is a whole other type of experience, so I encourage that. Part 2 tomorrow is going to focus on the 3 final pieces, which are my resources, my obstacles, and my reset. All right, thumbs up if you got those, and we're ready to keep going. Give it another second. Okay. All right, so your question. Here's a problem. Adam was feeling scattered and didn't know how to focus his career efforts. Maybe some of you can relate to that. The solution was to pinpoint his main question to feel more grounded and focused. All right, so this is focused on your question. Sometimes we think about things as problems or challenges. One of the methodologies that I've trained in and I'm certified in is as a holistic narrative professional. And what that means is we start with your question, because a question invites curiosity, okay? It invites an open mind, a growth mindset. That's why it's so important. So it's your turn. I want you to write down what keeps you up at night. What is your overarching question right now? It might sound something like, what do I want for my next career step? Okay, don't overthink this. It can be really short and sweet. It can help to start with the word what to invite that curiosity that I was just talking about. So write it down, and once you do, please go ahead and add it to the chat so we can have a beautiful collage of questions. I'll give you a moment for this. All right, take another moment for that, and then let's get those in the chat, and we will keep rolling here. So this is to focus us, this is to ground us. For those of you who meditate or are into mindfulness, this might be familiar because it's similar to having some kind of topic or mantra as you're engaging in meditation. It's really something to focus on. It's kind of a theme, an organizing tool. All right, so they're starting to come in. This is really exciting. I'm going to share what some of them are, and then we'll keep going. What do I want for my day-to-day professional experiences? What do I want them to look like in 1 to 2 years? And what needs to happen now and then to get there? Awesome. Okay, here's another one. What do I want for my next career step? Yeah, totally, right? That's why I had that in my example, because it's a question I hear from people all the time. Next, what kinds of roles are suited to the experience I have? Love it. Absolutely. That's really important. Next question. What do I want to do next? What does this look like? Where will I land? How can I frame my transferable skills to a new space? Okay, so that was a bunch of questions, but it's okay. Sometimes we have a bunch of questions. It's okay. Write them all down. You got to get them out there, right? Like that's what this is about. We got to get them out there. Then we can refine them. We can play with them. Okay, think of this as like being clay that we get to shape. If you don't have the lump of clay, you can't make anything. We got to get the lump of clay, okay? Then we can start playing with it. Awesome. How can I utilize my background to get the job I want? That is a great question. I wonder how you can do that. Okay. What should I focus on for my next step in my career? Absolutely. What do I want my next role to look like, both in the way and type of work, and also how it fits into my home life? Yes, totally. I'm big into having your career work for you, right? That needs to happen. It's so important for our health, our quality of life, sustainability of our career, how we engage with other people, right? If we're miserable in our work life, we're not doing any favors to anybody who gets to be around us, whether they're a stranger or a family member or anything, right? It's not doing any favors for anybody, and it's not setting a great example either. Okay. What is the balance between, I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing any of them. What is the balance between service and career growth? Balancing my abilities and what I'm good at with what I can realistically contribute. Absolutely, right? So that's really talking about things like skills. It's talking about career growth. Another one is, what is my next career move and what skills do I build on now for the future? Yes, those are important considerations to have. And the last question I'm seeing right now is, what do I want to do next career-wise? What am I good at and enjoy to do for a living, which also allows work-life balance and makes good money? Absolutely. Those are the kinds of questions my clients ask all the time. So you're in the right place. Go ahead and throw some emojis in there, everyone. Just if you see any questions that resonate with you, just take a look through them and throw some emojis down, just so people can feel like, you know, they're being seen and heard. All right. And another question is, what kind of offer can I focus on first that will bring in some money while I work on other ideas I have? Totally. Okay. So if any of those resonate with you, go ahead and throw some emojis in, thumbs up, hearts, you name it, go for it. Love it. Okay. So congratulations, because you just did one of the most challenging parts, which is you got a question out there. Okay. You articulated a question. That's not always easy to do. So I want to recognize that you just did something that might have felt difficult, okay? And your question might change. It's not always going to be the same. Okay. That's fine. Let's keep rolling. Okay. The key takeaway just from this part is that articulating your question to prepare for an intentional process is part of this work of reflecting, clarifying, and exploring. And if you learn more about my work, if you read my book, if you participate in my courses, if you work with me as a one-on-one client, if you look at the content I share online, you will see me talking about these themes over and over and over again. And this is really these are essential components of living an intentional life and leading an intentional, meaningful, rewarding, fulfilling career. That's why we do this foundation building, okay? We don't just start going and applying to tons of jobs. That's a fast track to frustration, depletion, burnout. It is not the way, okay? So we're gonna have a special guest, and I'm going to just check and see if our special guest is already in the room. It looks like they are. Okay. So I'm really excited to have a special guest with us today. We're going to put a spotlight on her, and I'm delighted to have Emily here today. Emily is joining us just for a few minutes, and then we're going to dive back into some of the content I have to share with you today. But get ready, because I just heard from Emily a couple days ago this week with some really exciting news. Emily is a recent client of mine who I had the absolute pleasure of working with. And we're going to get to hear what's been going on with Emily and her news. And if you read the emails leading up to today, you might already know something about this. But I'm really excited for Emily to share her story. And so stick around for the next pieces. And you're going to get to ask some questions of Emily. So first, we're going to hear a little bit from Emily, and then you can, put questions in the chat, and we'll go through a few of those, and then we'll keep going. All right. So Emily, I have the spotlight on you, and I'm delighted to have you here today. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about, what you've been up to, what's going on, and then we'll take some questions.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Erica, and hi everyone. Excited to be here today. Yeah, so like Erica said, was a prior client of hers and really had a great experience working with her. Just to give a bit of context, I guess, on kind of what brings me here. Um, a few months ago, I had been working at my current or at my prior job for a few years. Really had a really good experience and learned a lot in my time at this like larger company, but felt like I came to a point where my day to day and the skills I was using didn't really align with what I saw for myself and what I saw for my future. So made the decision to kind of step away from that role and just take some time to figure out my next move. So during that time, at first was feeling a bit overwhelmed about where to start and how to really get that clarity of what do I want for my future? What do I want to pivot to career wise? So ended up finding out about Erica's services and came on with her as a client to kind of start working as her client and really gaining clarity as for what's next. So I'm happy to highlight a little bit about what I found helpful for me with working with Erica and kind of where I am today. So I guess to give a summary of what I found most helpful about our work together, one piece comes to mind around this self-assessment, which was essentially a framework to figure out your top skills that you naturally have and are good at. And you kind of like rank your proficiency of those skills. And then also figuring out through prompting questions what skills you actually enjoy using. So through this assessment, you're able to kind of figure out, some key themes and areas of where you can see yourself going. And the report also kind of gives you a career guide on some options and pathways with top skills that you might get to use that really align with what you're looking for. And I feel like that was a really big aha moment for me and kind of getting the ball rolling on, oh, I never thought about a career in fundraising or donor relations. And because I value relationship building as one of my top skills, that could be a good option for me. So that was one thing that I found was really helpful and almost like a first step in getting some ideas and brainstorming. And then alongside that, Also, Erica gave a really cool framework and kind of program called Online Storyteller, which essentially is a narrative-based approach where you basically think of experiences throughout your life, whether that's childhood, personal life, work life, and you kind of reflect on those experiences. And the tool kind of gives you prompting questions to understand what you enjoyed about these, why you enjoyed it, maybe skills you didn't really enjoy using. So it's kind of like another form of self-assessment, but more narrative-based. And also got the chance to ask people in my life for feedback on my strengths and abilities as well. So friends, significant other, coworkers, everything. So essentially, what you're doing is building a giant map of all these experiences, um, feedback from others, to where you can kind of look at this as a way to recognize themes of what you enjoy um, within your life and kind of where you can maybe go in the future. And was I was able to use all of these kind of results as a way to create a consolidated statement and map of what I'm looking for and what's important to me. And fast forward to when I actually narrowed down about four core areas of where I wanted like a target industry or target role titles. I was able to kind of refer back to that statement of really what my values are, what are non-negotiables for me in my next job, and really was kind of like a North Star for me. So felt like those two things helped inform where I wanted to go. Then kind of was ready to actually start the job search, and Erica really encouraged me to leverage my network to look for roles. So was felt really motivating to kind of start to reach out to people, connect with people from my professional life that I hadn't in a while, and ended up getting some really good results from that. Heard back about a few opportunities, and there was one in particular that kind of came from a woman I used to work with in a past role. I knew her company, which was like a smaller startup, had this type of position open. And it turned out they had just opened a new position for this. So going through the interview process, used a lot of the advice that Erica had given me to make sure with this pivot, I'm really focusing on my transferable skills, even if I haven't had this exact title before, and ended up successfully going through that process, landed an offer, and throughout the process also knew what questions to ask to make sure I'm not only selling myself, but vetting, is this company in this role a good fit for what's important to me, and what kind of like those non-negotiables that I set at the beginning were as well. So it was a long process, and I'm really excited. I'm feeling really motivated about this next step for me and what that means for my career path. And I think thinking back to the beginning where, was feeling overwhelmed and wasn't sure where to start, I really feel that Erica gave me those frameworks and the tangible next steps of what needed to happen in order to kind of build that clarity, and really start my search. So yeah, I can go ahead and pause, Erica, if there's any other specific areas you want me to hit on or answer any questions as well.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Emily. So, tell us a little bit about, how it felt for you to go from sort of, the beginning, just a few months ago, and then, how you've been feeling lately. Tell us a little bit about the emotions you've been experiencing, because I think people will be able to relate to that. And then let's see what questions people have. Please feel free to go ahead and put your questions in the chat starting right now. Any questions that you have for Emily about what it was like to work with me, what it was like, any really whatever questions you have, we'll decide, which ones she's going to respond to. But Emily, tell us a little bit about what that emotional piece was like for you.
Yeah, I know I mentioned overwhelming. I think that's a main one. Just when I don't know how many people on the call are thinking about making a larger pivot. It's scary. It's hard when you look at job postings and you see XYZ is required, really being able to like dissect that and understand, do I have the skills? Am I qualified to get there? So I think that's a big piece that kind of required a mindset shift for me. And I think just feeling unsure as well of, you know, I am making a pivot because I want to be a bit happier with my career and feel more fulfilled by my career. am I going to be able to land something that's the right fit? Am I going to find something that really checks all of my boxes? So I think a lot of uncertainty was kind of the emotion at first. And then as you know, you kind of narrow down and really start to hear back from opportunities and get responses from people, it feels really motivating and exciting to feel like you're making progress. And now, sitting here really excited about this new opportunity, I can look back and feel confident that I did take the right steps and really, really excited for the future.
Wonderful. Okay, so thank you for sharing about that. Yeah, I think a lot of people go give a thumbs up in the chat or an emoji effect if you can relate to any aspects of Emily's story, right? This kind of feeling overwhelmed, feeling frustrated, feeling unsure, maybe confused. I don't know what I want. What direction do I go in? Is it even possible? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to do something that feels like a good fit for me? How am I going to market myself? Like any of those things that come up for you that Emily struggled through, give an emoji just so we know, like, yes, okay, people can relate. Great, seeing a lot of thumbs up. And yeah, so we have some questions in the chat here. Question from Jesse. How much did you adjust the pace of your process to accommodate additional reflection steps? Anything you would say about that, Emily? We'll do these like kind of quickly because we have a few questions to get through, and I know there's a lot of content to cover today. So any thoughts on that, Emily, the pacing of things?
Yeah, good question. I would say there were a lot of adjustments I made along the way. I feel like giving your time or giving yourself time and space to say like, okay, I just worked on this really, really hard for a week. Give yourself a few days to kind of reflect on that and see how that lands with you. I would say was a bit of like a back and forth. And then I think I at one point had to take a step back to really realize that submitting a ton of online applications, just like on Indeed and LinkedIn, wasn't working for me. So took that step to reflect and realize that the networking is really like the way to go with that. So I would say it's important to adjust your pace as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So doing some actions, kind of getting some feedback, getting some data, seeing what the results are, and then adjusting accordingly and building in that time for reflecting, which is so important. Another question we have is, how long did it take you to get from the first part of your journey to landing your new role? If I remember correctly, Emily, it was around 4 months to go from starting our work together to landing the role. Is that right?
Yeah, about 4 or 5.
And what I'll say about that is that's pretty quick. I based on my work with hundreds of clients over the years, what I've seen is that you want to figure that it's likely going to take you between 6 and 7 months at a minimum. And that's if you're consistently employing best practices. So Emily, like shout out to you because you really accelerated your timeline. And I know how diligent you are. I know how seriously you took the process and how you really showed up for yourself. So I think that has a lot to do with it. You also really carved out the time. And I know that for some people, you have to take into account if you are a parent, if you are working full time, if you are taking care of, an aging parent, if you have, health challenges, if whatever the things are that are part of your life, you have to take those into account. And so those might extend your timeline. Okay, Emily was in a situation where she was really able to focus on this and give it her all. So I attribute a lot of why she had such a short timeline to the focus that she was able to give to it. Emily, anything you would add to that before we take another question or two?
Yeah, I would echo what you said. I was very fortunate to be able to kind of really take some time off and dedicate full time because I know it sounds like probably people in the chat feel like so exhausted from working full time that it's like having the energy to dedicate to a full job search is difficult. And I think that's what I recognize with that as well. So I think I was fortunate, very fortunate. I know I was very fortunate with that piece of it. And then also, honestly, the timing of reaching out to that person from my prior role and them having just opened it, like I think the things did align, but I also, giving myself credit and giving like Erica's framework credit as well, wouldn't have been able to get to that place either without that. So I think it's definitely both.
Yes, we have people who are sharing in the chat, they've been looking for over a year. What I would say is, don't just keep doing the same stuff and expecting different results, as the famous saying goes. There are, I'm sure, adjustments that can be made both in terms of mindset and in terms of your tactical approach that will really shift things for you. So I encourage you to, stick around, participate in the whole masterclass, and then reach out in one of the various ways to receive support, because it's just not necessary. I have heard that story from so many people, and it's if you're really like struggling and frustrated and it feels like it's taking forever, please just like kind of hit pause. And we're going to talk about hitting reset. That's why I really think of it in those terms. Like, there comes a time when it's like, okay, I'm hitting reset, and now I'm going to learn to do things in a different way with support from a professional who knows this space, who knows careers, who knows job search and career pivots. So I encourage you to do that. Okay, and people are saying, same, you're not alone. Yeah, I'm really glad you're here, because you don't need to keep going about it the way you have been. All right, so let's see if there's one or two more questions, and then we're gonna move on to the rest of the content. We're doing well in terms of pacing though, so that's great. Okay, so other questions I'm seeing, let's see. Yeah, so there's a question about how to have the time and energy to both work full time while conducting a job search. Emily, do you want to say anything about that? I'm happy to add a few things as well.
Yeah, I would say the bulk of my search was when I wasn't working, so I don't think I can fully speak to that,
Sure.
unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll say a couple things about that. It's really about working smarter, not harder. Okay. You don't want to pour hours a day or a week into just looking at job boards and submitting applications and hoping it's going to work. That usually doesn't work. And so it's incredibly important that you use your time and energy well. You want to make sure that you're learning and consistently using best practices, such as the ones that Emily already mentioned. Things like using self-assessments to get really clear on who you are and what's important to you, what you have to offer, and what you're looking for. Once you do that, then you're able to have more clarity. Notice that Emily didn't say, I did all this outreach to my network, and then I figured out what I wanted. And no, she figured out what she wanted. She got clear on who she is and what's important to her and what she has to offer and what her transferable skills are. And then she really got down to engaging with her network. She did one-to-one outreach to former colleagues and people who she has positive relationships with, right? Both acquaintances as well as probably people that you know really well, Emily, I'm guessing. And so let's see, I'm just adjusting some settings here. It's really important that you do things in the proper sequence. That's what makes a huge difference for most job seekers. You're going to do this foundation building that we're starting together today, and keep going with that so you have the clarity. Emily narrowed it down to 4 key areas that she was interested in, and then she focused on engaging with her network. Then she was asking about what kinds of opportunities there might be and how she could be of service. And there you go. Somebody said to her, Emily, how did they phrase it to you?
Yeah, I think they had said like this timing seems meant to be, which was cool to hear. So it all really did work out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said something like they said, like your timing is impeccable, right? And so
Yeah,
it's like,
yep.
but your timing was impeccable for more than one reason, Emily. And I really want to emphasize this. Your timing was impeccable, not only because they happened to have an opportunity that was a great match for you, but also because you had done the necessary work so that when you reached out, it was the right moment. You were reaching out at the right point in your search because you knew what you were looking for. And that was not a publicly posted job. You were not responding to a publicly posted job that anybody in the world with an internet connection could find out about. You were reaching out to somebody who you knew, who trusted you, who you had a positive relationship with, I'm guessing, right?
Yes. Yep.
And you inquired if there might be something, but I'm guessing you just didn't say anything in the world. You kind of gave them a sense of what you were looking for. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. You made it easy for them to help you, essentially. You made it easy for them to say yes. And that is central to my approach. You have to get a certain amount of clarity so that when you're reaching out to people, you're not just saying, hey, anyone have a job for me? Which is what so many people do. They go on LinkedIn and they'll say things like, I'm looking for work. And then it's like, a lot of the time crickets, or people will write back with all kinds of totally irrelevant things, which then has the person wondering, should I do that? Should I do this? Maybe I could do that. I don't know. That doesn't really sound like me, but somebody has a job. You want to come from a place of being empowered and proactive and intentional, I'm guessing. And if so, you're in the right place, because that's what I focus on supporting folks to do. And once you have that clarity, you can do that outreach and it's going to be more impactful. It's going to be more relevant. So that's really what you want to be doing, is using your time and energy well. You want to consistently employ best practices, and it's the kinds of things that we're talking about together today. Achieving that clarity, which you can do by working with somebody like me, and then engaging with your network, which I also train people in how to do, so that then you can be finding out about different opportunities and you can be of service in a way that's aligned with your interests, your values, your skills, your priorities, and so forth. All right, we'll see if we have one more question and then we're going to keep rolling. So question here from Dan is, when you were getting those rejections, before you pivoted your tactics, how were you able to not let it shake your confidence?
That is a really, really good question. And to be fully honest, like, and especially even if you're looking for months and months and not getting the results that you want, it can be extremely discouraging. There were definitely tears shed multiple times, but that's just part of it. And I think how I tried to combat, or like maybe a rejection about a role I was really excited about, was trying to just take one tangible step after that to, try something new and really combat kind of that feeling. So I think one thing that I found really helpful, more so after taking like the online application approach and not having a ton of success, was did a lot of research on like networking events in my area, my university's like alumni service networking events, and joined like a volunteer group there, and really like scheduling tangible things that allows me to meet people and connect with people. Because I think through those things are where I found a lot of opportunities as well to explore. So I think that was the biggest thing for me. It's like there is going to be rejection and discouraging moments. It's like taking that and saying, okay, what can I try instead, and take a new approach.
Wonderful. Okay, so yeah, it can be an emotional roller coaster, but there are things that you can do that really can help to even out some of those emotional responses. And it sounds like, Emily, you were able to employ those. So one more question, and then we're going to move on. This one's from Eden. When you narrowed down to 4 areas of focus for your career, how specific were they?
Yeah, I would say they weren't super specific. And Erica, I remember when I saw you at that event, we had kind of talked about this a little bit too. I can just give the actual example if that's more helpful. The kind of 4 areas I was thinking about were sales, customer success roles, donor relations within the nonprofit space, and then marketing. So a range of specific or not specific. And I do think at certain points I felt like I was casting a little bit too wide of a net, and I probably could have got a bit more specific. So if honestly, if this opportunity that I just accepted hadn't worked out, that would have been my next step, is really narrowing it down a bit further, because I'm sure you can all imagine like job searching with that wide of a net is exhausting, and you're kind of looking in a lot of different areas. So I think getting a bit more specific in that sense could have benefited me a bit more.
Thank you. Okay, so let's give a round of applause to Emily. Let's give some emojis and some appreciation here to Emily for taking the time for sharing your story. Really awesome. So excited for you for your the investment you made in yourself and your next steps. And in closing, Emily, what would you say to folks who are sort of on the fence about, how to move forward? Maybe they've been struggling for a year, as some of the folks here have been, and they're just like, really getting frustrated, or maybe they've been frustrated for a very long time. What would you say to them? Any parting words?
Yeah, I would just say you got this. I know it's difficult, but try to keep a positive mindset as much as you can, but also let yourself like feel what you need to feel. I think it's like two ends of that. And then I also just a testament to like my work with Erica, I really found a ton of value in it. Like if you're ready to really put in the work and like be able to complete all of these self-assessments and ready to do that, I really think she can help you get there and help you really get that clarity and make a difference. So, yeah, best of luck to everyone. You got this. It's all going to work out. But yeah, thanks for having me as well.
Thank you so much, Emily. Please stick around if you're able to, and if not, we understand you have, some time to enjoy, before your new role starts. Thanks so much for taking the time. We really appreciate you sharing your story.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Bye,
All
everyone.
right, so we're gonna go back into our content here. So gonna share these slides again, and if I could just get a thumbs up that you can see those. Okay, terrific. So now what we're going to focus on is your vision. Now that we've gotten some inspiration from Emily, I'm going to share with you a problem, which is that Rebecca lacked a clear vision and her indecision made her feel stuck. So the solution was to free herself to imagine what she truly wanted. All right, so this part is where we're focusing on vision. This is the second component because we've already talked about what your question is. Now it's time to do some visioning. So we're really going to let ourselves imagine. So it's your turn. Go ahead and imagine you've just had an incredible year, personally and professionally, because those two things are interconnected. Describe it in just a few words. It might sound something like, this year was incredible because. This year was incredible because. And I want you to not censor yourself with what seems like it is realistic. Okay, that is one of the biggest mistakes that people make. Because right now we're doing the dreaming. We're not planning yet, we're dreaming. When you go ahead and dream for just a moment, write down your thoughts and then share them in the chat. So let's start to see those responses come in the chat here. This is a part that I find really fun because we get to be creative, we get to imagine, we get to play. And it can also be really challenging for people to do that. But I'm giving you permission, and I'm inviting you to give yourself permission. And it's really valuable to write it down for yourself. It's also really valuable to share it with other people, because that's how you start to get it out there into the universe. And then that's when really amazing things can start happening. All right, I'm going to read a few aloud, and then we're going to keep going, and we'll wrap up in a few minutes. Okay, so I got to be present with my family on evenings and weekends, and I felt like I really contributed to moving a team forward with engaging and challenging work. All right, let's get some emojis going for these awesome statements here. Next, this was an incredible year because I felt seen in my work, made a difference for people, and had time and space to be with my people and engage in life creatively. Ooh, sounds divine. This year was incredible because I was able to feel proud of my work and the success I had helped shape. And I showed, sorry, I'm getting, and the success I had helped shape public discussion around issues I care about. I got paid what my work was worth, and used that stability to start building my cabin in the woods. Oh, I have a friend you need to talk to. We're having all sorts of fun talking about tiny homes in the woods. Okay, that's really cool. This year was incredible because I landed my dream job following my passion. I connected with so many friends and former colleagues, and I'm happy with my mental and physical health. Awesome. Here are a couple more. This year was incredible because I landed a dream job making a positive impact within marginalized communities and relocating to the Pacific Northwest. And this year has been incredible because I feel fulfilled in my work, having impact in our communities, and I've created better balance between work and family responsibilities, and finally travel with no guilt. Okay, awesome. I'm curious, just maybe in a word, what does it feel like to put your vision into words, and also to see other people's visions in words? Oh, we have one more. This year was incredible because I became my own boss, helped tons of people navigate their healing journey, and found a place to call home. Amazing. All right. So in one word, go ahead and put it in the chat. What feeling is coming up for you right now as you share your vision in writing and as you see other people's? One word. Go ahead and throw it in the chat. Hopeful, excitement, hope, excitement. I'm noticing some themes here. I love themes. That's cool. Okay, great. So one of my key takeaways from this is that when you free yourself up to dream big, you challenge your limiting beliefs, those thoughts that are holding you back, and you expand your view of what's possible. So I'd like you to put any questions that you have right now into the chat. I'm going to, in a few minutes, stick around for a few more minutes and turn off the recording in case anybody has any questions that they would like to ask without the recording. So if you have any questions, though, that you'd like me to address on the recording, again, I'm not going to identify anybody for privacy purposes. Go ahead and put those in the chat. And while you think about that, I'm going to share some resources with you. I have a new mini program that's a great little step for you to take if you're feeling inspired, if you're feeling like you want to do something beyond the masterclass, if you want to keep going with this. And remember, we do have part 2 tomorrow, so there is more content for you and another chance to be together in this community space. But the Career Growth Jumpstart is essentially a questionnaire. The current format of it is 25 questions. It's a mix of open-ended and multiple choice questions. And it is designed to help you take stock of where you currently are and help you start to be really strategic and also open your mind up about what kinds of possibilities there might be for you. So whether you're already in the midst of a job search or a career pivot, or you're just sort of entertaining the idea of that, this is for you. It's a great small step that you can take immediately. The questionnaire takes between 30 to 45 minutes for most folks. And what happens is not only does completing this self-assessment I created give you a chance to pause and reflect and clarify some things for yourself, but then also I'm going to go in and I'm going to review your responses and I'm going to provide you with some feedback. I'm going to give you some guiding questions so that you can continue to do some journaling and some self-discovery so that you can establish this really strong foundation that we've started together today. So you can scan the QR code for that. And there's the link also that you can take down. And I will also put that in the chat. Just give me one moment. And then the next piece is clarify my direction. And this one is for those of you who are wanting more. This is a 90-day online course. It's highly structured. It gives you interactive materials. You can read all about it if you go to this link that I have, ericamattison.com/CMD for clarify my direction. And as part of this program, you get to move at your own pace because you have access to all of the materials. But I've set it up as a 3-month container because it's based on my work with hundreds of clients, my understanding that that's a reasonable amount of time to do this kind of deep thought work that's involved. There are a number of self-assessment type activities, worksheets, interactive materials from companies like SkillScan, with which I'm a certified coach, the self-assessment that Emily mentioned earlier. You're also going to have access to a group coaching session similar to this event today, where you get to be in community with other people and bring your questions and your situation. Our next one is coming up in just a few days. So if you'd like to be part of the one for this month, you'll want to join that program right away so you can get started on the materials and really be ready to participate in a meaningful way. I'd say that if you have about 20 minutes a day consistently that you can give to your career, this is a great way to help you structure it. What I would say is if you've been in a job search for a year and you're feeling really frustrated, this could be a good place for you to sort of say, hey, I'm going to hit reset and I'm going to really dedicate myself to learning the best practices and employing them consistently. I really want to establish a solid foundation so that I can go about my search in a different way that feels better and is going to get me better results, and it's going to speed things up. So it's that kind of thing of like, you got to slow down to speed up. That's sort of what we're talking about here. And you get to also participate in the online community where you can chat with other participants at whatever time of day you want, whatever your time zone is, and you can submit questions that I will respond to through the Q&A channel on there. So a lot of things that come with that. Great value for folks who aren't quite ready to do one-on-one coaching, but really want to take some meaningful steps. Some people will add on one-on-one coaching to that to give them that personal time. So that's also an option. I mentioned my book earlier, so here's some more information about that. Clarifying what matters, creating direction for your career. This has anecdotes from my career journey. I've done a number of career pivots. I've created my own job. I've started and grown my own business. I have a lot of different types of experiences. So I share a little bit about that, my work in sustainability and environmental protection advocacy, my work with nonprofit organizations, higher education, communications, these different kinds of roles that I've had. I also share client success stories, such as the one that you got to see firsthand today from Emily. And I provide guiding questions to help you reflect and advance your vision. So it's an interactive experience. It's a quick read. I recommend giving it a quick skim and then going back through it and really taking your time over the course of a couple of weeks with a journal so that you can really create the most value from the experience. So there's the information about that, and you can easily find it if you go to my website, ericamadison.com. So put your questions in the chat. We'll turn off the recording in a couple of minutes after I've answered some of those questions, so that if anybody wants to come off of mute and share a question, they'll have the opportunity to do so. And don't forget to come back tomorrow for part 2, same time, same place. It was wonderful having you all here today. I want to congratulate you for showing up for yourselves. I know you had all kinds of other places you could have been and other things you could have been doing, but you have carved out the time to be here, and that is significant. So I want to acknowledge that and congratulate you. I also want to say thank you for making it a fun, interesting event by being so interactive in the chat. It's way more fun when that happens, and I think it creates a lot of value for me and for everybody in the space. So thanks for, sharing, for being vulnerable, for being open, for communicating. We're able to really learn a lot from each other when we create this kind of space and have this kind of dialogue. So put your questions in the chat. I hope this has been helpful to you, and I look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Just a reminder, there will be a recording, so if you'd like to watch or rewatch any of this, you'll also be able to do that. I'll have that out to you shortly today, and then again, tomorrow's recording, I'll have to you tomorrow. So what questions do folks have? Go ahead and put them in the chat. People are thinking. All right, here's one. Oh, it mentions one of my favorite tools, LinkedIn. Haha. Okay. Do you have recommendations on how to use tools like LinkedIn? Yes. I have a podcast episode about this that you might enjoy. Let's see if I can grab the link to that quickly. I'm going to stop sharing the slides now. Okay. So LinkedIn is an incredibly powerful tool, and there's a lot to know about it. There's so much to say about it. Basically, recommendations on how to use it. First, you want to create a very just basic profile if you haven't already done so that you can have a presence on LinkedIn. Then you want to really start doing this work that I mentioned around clarity, so that you get clear on who you are, what's important to you, what are your favorite skills to use, what kinds of opportunities are you most interested in. By doing that work, then you're able to really adjust your profile and build it out more so that it's going to be more relevant for the kinds of people you're seeking to attract. So that way you can be using the relevant keywords, you can be using relevant imagery, you can be engaging with the types of people who make sense for you to engage with and the kinds of groups that make sense for you to join on LinkedIn. And you want to have a consistent presence, right? So you don't want to just post once a month. You want to be posting regularly. You also want to be engaging with other people's content. And you want to give the platform data about you in terms of you want to help the algorithms do their job. So you want to react to things that you have a reaction to. You want to comment on things that you think are interesting and valuable. You want to follow people who have things to say that you want to hear. That's going to help you get more relevant content in your feed. Also, in terms of using LinkedIn, I would say I have a whole presentation on this, but you want to think about how LinkedIn can be used for different things, right? So it can be used for research. It can be used for advancing your brand. It can be used to connect with people, both people you already know and people you would like to know. So think about how LinkedIn is really a multi-purpose tool. There are so many different options, and you want to be intentional about how you engage with it. I would say that a few minutes a day on LinkedIn can go a long way in terms of advancing your goals and creating value in the world. So I definitely encourage people to be active on LinkedIn. And I'll say that most of my clients really are not into social media, but they do understand the importance of LinkedIn. It is different. It is a professional networking site. And I see so many interesting mission-driven jobs on there every day in my feed, roles in climate, roles in education, roles at nonprofits. The list goes on, and it's just an incredible resource. So I hope that was helpful as a sort of quick answer to something that I have volumes to say about. And I've included a link to ericamattison.com/media, where you can find my podcast appearances and so forth. Look for the one that is Find Your Dream Job: How to Reinvent Your Personal Brand for a Career Pivot. I just located that one, and I've put the link specifically to that episode in the chat. On that episode, we talk a lot about your personal brand and LinkedIn, and specifically positioning yourself for a career pivot. All right. So any other questions that folks have for the full group, go ahead and put those in the chat. And then otherwise, I will stop the recording and take a couple of questions off the recording. Okay, then I will stop the recording. Thanks for being here, everyone.